What's up, y'all? I'm back, man. 2 days later, I'm back. Let me tell y'all real quick why it took me 2 days. My brain was scrambled for real. Like, I don't know if y'all heard me tell y'all in that first intro podcast that I was fasting, right? But let me just say, I had to stay my weak ass in the bed for the most part, cause yeah, that shit was tough. Like, for real, for real, for real. Probably one of the toughest things I had to do. And on top of the no food, I had to cut out the smoking and coffee. Coffee was probably my biggest uh, addiction, I guess you want to call it. I be on that coffee, man. Everybody know me, they know. But so I had to disappear for a couple of days. Just lay my ass in the bed, man. Think, think about thinking because honestly, my brain seemed like they was scrambled a little bit. Not sure what that was about, but that's what it was. But I'm back, 28th of December, and I want to just deal with the thought real quick. And I was gonna do something funny, but I don't think I made it to that point yet. This shit's so brand new. I only got 9 views, so ain't no point in doing a whole bunch of entertainment right now. Plus, probably need to get familiar with how this whole thing works. Like I said, I'm a little behind trying to learn it all. A little tardy to the party when it comes to understanding technology the way that a lot of people do from the newer generation, my generation. You know, hey, it is what it is. But I learned, as you see, I made a couple changes already due to my wife and my daughter critiquing it. I got rid of the screen that I do my auditions on, the little gray. You probably can see it over in the corner. But anyway, got rid of that, so now it's just the green screen and this banner. Um, but let's get into it real quick. Try to make this thing shorter than longer. Oh my God. It's 5:20, 5:32 in the morning. Yeah, on a Wednesday. Anyway, my thoughts about the two U's. Um, the two U's, the consciousness and the body. Consciousness and the body. Well, it's so critical to me that we separate the two because one of them makes all the decisions, makes all the choices, and it's who people want to know. So if you, for instance, you hear somebody say something like, go on a date and get to know this person, well, you can't know a person by seeing them, looking at them. That's why people who see some of the stuff I put on my social media, you can't recognize me like via picture, yada yada yada, because what you're looking at, even what you're looking at right now, does not represent me, who I am. Now it represents who Romero is because I was given the name Romero by my parents. So what you see, yes, represents Romero. But who am I really? And who are you really? Well, you are a mixture of those personalities and characters, traits that you possess on the inside based off of experiences for the most part, or things you've read, things you've learned, whatever the case may be. But it's very important that we all understand that the person on the inside, that's the real important person. That's who people respect, people love, people admire, people learn from. So that's the person I feel like we all must work on a day-to-day basis because that's where people get to learn who we are. Outside this, it just protects us for the most part, but it also it's like our leading guy. I'm a guy. It's our leading guy. So if someone sees me, first impression, uh, they're gonna judge me off clothes, hair, and I don't put a lot of stock into that. That's why you'll see me with my frizzy hair, the sweaters that don't uh, button up, just the thermals on. I'm not gonna put a ton of effort into dressing up my mannequin versus getting you to know me. What you hear is me. And so I like to stress that to people. I stressed it to my kids so much because it's so important that they understand, listen, what you see in that mirror, that's not exactly who you are. You don't pick what you look like. You can make changes, subtle changes, drastic changes. You can do surgeries. You can make all kinds of changes. I get it. That's not who you are. You don't pick those things. You can't say, God, I want to be dark skinned, I want to be light skinned, I want to have long hair, short hair. You don't get to, when you're in a room, nobody has a conscience at that point, that cognitive conscience, I should say. Um, so you deal with what you have, but unfortunately, I think most people identify with what they look like in the mirror. So I listened to a psychologist once say something like that. People act the way they look. Typically, that's the way the majority of people act. So whatever they see in the mirror, if they see someone who they think is beautiful, you'll see them acting beautiful. There are, like, I guess, some beautiful traits in acting, I don't know, that people exercise. If you see somebody who's obese, overweight, ugly, ashamed of themselves, then they'll act that way in public. So it's so important to understand two different yous, and that way you can be the you who you really want to be, and sometimes you can separate the two. It'll make it a little easier on you to be able to separate the two, because I choose to, when I walk out, not necessarily be represented by what I look like. However, I do, like I said, I understand it is the precursor. It's what people judge first. But when I walk in a room and I have to talk to somebody, I expect by the time I start talking to them for them to recognize the real me. So I'm saying that to say this, understand who you are. There are two yous, and one's more important than the other, if you ask me. I believe who you really are, the person that makes all the conscious decisions, the person who holds conversation, dialogue, the person who gives and receives love. Because sex, to me, and I know this, we're a hypersexual society right now. Sex, to me, does not represent love. That's just an act. It's a reproductive act. However, we have become hypersexualized in today's society. But it's so crucial, it's so important to understand the difference between that outside physical you versus the persona, the person. Because that person is the real you. Like, I have a saying that's, I say, a lot of fake men put real men in jail. They haven't discovered who the real men inside are. And so those fake men who they're living as put those men in jail, and it's only after they have time to discover who they are, relive their life, go back and answer some questions that they have, because we all have to do that. We've got a lot of questions that we have to answer. So we can get to the sum of who we are. Because they like to say, your past don't make your present or your future. And I say that's subjective, because whatever you learn from your past or whatever you experience from your past, you take with you. You don't go anywhere. You still have it. It's knowledge, information. And so it can affect your present and your future. Um, I don't want to go too long. I don't know how long this video is. I may have to find somebody to edit it, but I wanted to, before I end it, talk about getting to understand who you are. I think we have to answer a lot of questions, a lot of questions. You have to go back to those traumatic eras, traumatic moments in your life, and you have to address those. You have to ask why. Why? And there are different whys. You got to go ask them all. why did this happen to me? Why was I here? Why was this person here? Why did whatever? You got to ask those whys, and you got to get to the bottom of those things so you can move on. That's so important. You can't really, you can't really be a whole you without knowing why. Because a lot of times we can take accountability for a lot of the traumas that we've been through in our life. Um, I know for me, I could. There's very few times where I experienced something traumatic in my life and I had nothing to do with it except maybe when I was younger, a child. Children are oftentimes, we subject to whatever our parents are going through. So um, those are some traumas we have to deal with too. But I do understand we can't all get treatment. We can't all afford treatment. But I think that we can all help ourselves just by going to those moments, going to those scenarios and answering a few questions. See why. Ask the why. Because there's usually a why somewhere in there. And a lot of times if we can find a way to blame things on ourselves, it just makes it a lot easier. I don't want to say blame, but a lot of times we can find our fault in whatever situation. So a lot of times it makes it a lot easier to move on. So I always recommend to do that. Um, I want to say this, a base on how to grow and to be who you choose to be, because it is a choice. That's the most powerful thing about this all is who you are is a choice. Your personality, you get to choose it. You get to choose it. You don't have to be what your past has programmed you to be, what you've seen, what you've done. You get to choose who you want to be from now going forward in your life. It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So I want people to understand that, who we are is a choice. It's I decided to be a good person. I'm speaking for me right now. I decided to be a good person some years back. Uh, I can say I know the difference between being a good person and not. Because I wasn't always a good person, but I decided to be a good person. And how you decide to be a good person if you weren't a good person? Well, what I did, and I don't know if it works for everybody, but what I did was I read the Bible. And in doing so, in reading the Bible, I got a chance to read so many good stories that I learned from and that touched me, affected me. And through learning those powerful and righteous, those righteous thoughts, written material, from every book in it. I mean, for the most part, there's so many virtues, righteous virtues inside of the Bible that if you can understand it and take those things with you, then you can form a base on how you want to live your life. Like, even if you just go with the Ten Commandments, and I wouldn't say that I live by all 10 Commandments 100% thoroughly, but I try my best. But yeah, get your base. Get a base. I understand what is good if you choose to be a good person. Like I said, I read the Bible. I use that as my foundation in which I want to grow from and make my decisions from, so that when people look at the proof in the pudding, they're going to say, well, that's a more righteous way of doing or looking at things or being. So, yeah, find a base. I don't know what your religions are, or if you choose not to use a religious source, a Bible, Quran, whatever, Buddhist, then just find some sort of base to be able to get your moral values, principles, and virtues from. Do that, and from there, go find out what personalities look like. It's more than alpha and beta. There's a lot more than alpha and beta. So if you think you either alpha or beta, you could very well be wrong. I'm a sigma personality. I do your homework. I ain't gonna describe all that. Take too long. Plus, it's plenty of documents and videos out there on it. So y'all go check it out. Find out what your personality is, and from finding out what your personality is, choose that personality, and that'll help you be who you want to be and who you really are. I'm gonna wrap this on up because I know this probably done went over 10 minutes. I appreciate y'all being here. If you find any of the content worth listening to, how about you give your boy a like and subscribe? But more important than that, leave a comment in something that you might want me to talk about, because that's another challenge. Coming on here talking to a camera about what I believe is important for other people to listen to. That's a challenge all in itself. And I'll be lucky if two people even get to this point in the video. But I appreciate you coming for as long as you did. If you watched it all, I really appreciate you. You probably family, I love you. But yeah, thanks a lot. And I'll see y'all soon. This is Thought 1, 12/28/22.